Now, it was an off-stage tragedy every bit as dramatic as the story on stage. On a January night in 2013, a masked assailant threw acid in the face of the company's artistic director, Sergei Filin. It left him with severe burns and blind in one eye, and it thrust the secretive world of Moscow's Bolshoi ballet into the headlines. And a documentary team were lucky enough to get the inside story. In December 2013, Pavel Dmitrichenko was jailed for 6 years for leading an acid attack on his boss, Sergei Filin, artistic director of Moscow's Bolshoi Ballet. The attack exposed the simmering rivalries within the world's oldest and most famous ballet school.
Не верится, что такие вещи могли коснуться мира искусства, да? То есть мы возвращаемся в какие-то 90-е, и почему это касаемо театра, почему это коснулось.
After 9 months of treatment and surgery and blind in one eye, Filin returned to the Bolshoi, determined to reassert his hold on the company. But he found its leading lights unwilling to listen. Bolshoi Babylon charts that struggle and the battle to regain the company's former glory.
Были воедино слиты здесь, в зале Большого театра, где народ встретился с Иосифом Виссарионовичем Сталиным.
The Bolshoi Ballet famously hosted powerful visitors from across the globe and held an intimate relationship with the Kremlin. But the scandal of the acid attack caused damage at every level and a power struggle.
Одну секундочку, Сереж, не будем сейчас дискуссии, не будем, ладно? У меня к вам просьба. Если можно, будьте любезны, присядьте, пожалуйста.
The documentary has remarkable access to the dancers and management just as Sergei Filin returns. As well as those tensions, it reveals the day-to-day struggles of the Bolshoi dancers, the turmoils you'd never guess from their grace on stage. Well, I'm joined now by the filmmakers Nick Reed and Mark Franchetti. How did you get in at such an amazing time?
It was a combination of perseverance on Mark's behalf and good fortune that they had a new director who wanted to make transparency the sort of signature of his new regime.
Because this is a very secretive company, and one of the most amazing things about it is it's almost an instrument of the Russian state.
Yes, it is. I mean, this was what interested us very much, is that there is really no theatre in the world that has a status that the Bolshoi has inside Russia. It has very close links to the Kremlin, and as a result of that, it partly explains why there is so much backbiting, so much politics, so much intrigue around it, because everyone wants a piece of the action. We were very interested in exploring those links and what it tells you of contemporary Russia.
I mean, one of the things that comes out really quickly is this divide, chasm really, between the artists and the management. And they say so very sort of openly. Was that something that had always been there, or was it something that had opened up in this regime?
Well, I think it's fair to compare it a bit to it's like a dysfunctional family, the institution, and certainly the ballet company. And there's always been a lot of sort of the whole casting process has been very opaque. And I think that was one of the problems and one of the triggers for the whole acid attack and this sort of poisonous atmosphere that revolved around Filin.
So what did you end up concluding about the acid attack, about why it happened?
I think it was on the most simple level. It was bad blood between the man who's been convicted and his boss. However,
he wanted the job. Was that it?
No, he didn't want the job. They just had various rows, really to do with the management of the company, to do with the way state grants are awarded, to do with how parts are awarded. But what was interesting about it is that what led to the acid attack is very much a power struggle within the actual theatre for control of the theatre, with powerful backers, be they oligarchs, politicians, connected to the Kremlin outside the building. And that's something which we were also very interested in making those connections with what's happening outside in contemporary in Putin's Russia.
Because what you expect is when he goes back to the Bolshoi, he spent months in hospital, he's had this terrible attack, and you expect them all to embrace him and want him back, and they don't.
He arrived back in the building with a bodyguard in tow who was shadowing him everywhere, which instantly sort of created quite bad blood because obviously, it created this atmosphere of suspicion that someone else in the building might attack him again. And I think a lot of the dancers just couldn't understand that. And then he was a pretty private man, some would say evasive and elusive. But so his was one of the only doors that sort of locked, his office doors locked, and you have to sort of wait to get in. I think a lot of the dancers have a problem with that sort of attitude.
He's a divisive figure, and what was interesting about that acid attack is that when the dancer was arrested, which was so much worse for the Bolshoi because it turned out that someone within the company had done it, it very much split the company in two camps, one supporting Filin, the victim, and one supporting Dmitrichenko, the alleged and now convicted culprit, who to this day don't believe that he did it, and in a very sort of Russian way believe all sorts of very complex conspiracy theories that he was framed. So yes, it very much divided the company.
And how, in the balance, did it feel? I mean, this took the Bolshoi really to a depth, didn't it? I mean, when you were there.
Well, some have said it's the darkest chapter in their history. When we arrived on the scene in September 2013, the beginning of a new season, people were still really in trauma. They were still sort of processing it. The last thing actually they wanted to do was talk about it a lot to begin with. So it took us several months before we gained enough trust and to get them to open up about it.
Well, it's a fascinating watch. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you
for coming in.